Hello class, this is Dr. Mike here for my CIS-2640 Security Plus or Network Security class. This is for topic week 9 at the time of this recording. We're going to talk about chapter 8 now. This is going to coincide with another chapter this week, again currently at the time of this recording. Please check with your current shell and syllabus to see if any changes since this. But this will be just on chapter 8 and which will be about wireless network security. So I'm not going to go through the whole chapter again. I'm going to try to pick the slides and show you a resource you could use before it comes to wireless security. So again, wireless security being Wi-Fi, but also not just Wi-Fi. Think of things like Bluetooth, NFC, RF attacks, of course, and local Wi-Fi being the biggest one. And Wi-Fi should be an extension of your network security because this goes back to previous chapters talked about. You build your network, right? You might have your isolated, your data center core. Even inside there, you might have, should have separate isolation for really sensitive stuff. So our core network here, possibly a management network, and then from that we might have, your office network. And then the Wi-Fi is going to sort of live out here. And this is where you get the most risk, especially if you have like a visitors network, maybe a Wi-Fi network for visitors, hopefully. And that should be controlled and only allowed access maybe from within the office Wi-Fi network. It should be controlled access as in probably a good resolution would be an internal employee needs to log in and authenticate with their credentials to set up either a 1 day or 1 to X day, maybe max 30 days. User ID and password that's unique, that only gives that user login to this network. And initially it'll be really locked down, maybe like ports 443 and port 80, maybe other ports, maybe exceptions can be made for that. And you need to think about, because you're going to have people coming here, could be vendors, and they're going to need to access possibly FTP, SSH, or other services to support their job being within the company. So you got to be able to be flexible for those type of things, but you got to be really stringent about auditing and control. The biggest thing is going to be just not giving straight access. This isn't a coffee shop. You don't walk in and see the password is good coffee on the chalkboard, and suddenly you're on the same exact network with everyone else. So that isolation is going to be very important. When it comes to NFC attacks, Bluetooth attacks, that really is mobile. And mobile device security, I'm going to leave it at that. You should really consider that as part of your overall security strategy, especially when it comes to laptops, tablets, and mobile devices such as phones, especially ones that are issued by the company. But even more, you also might have ones where you have apps that give access to company data, but can be loaded onto a private device. So look at the risk for NFC and Bluetooth. Could be pretty low. I don't want to put off NFC being don't worry about it. And same with Bluetooth. There are attacks, but the attack vectors are very narrow, and the impact it could also be very narrow. It could be the user has a company phone, it gets some sort of Bluetooth attack, and they get contact from it. And we know from any kind of pen testing, any type of internal information, email addresses and contacts can be handy for later on attacks, especially for spear phishing, social engineering. So again, understand the attack vectors here with Bluetooth. I'm going to go over those. NFC attacks, data theft, man in the middle. I think the biggest attack you got for this is the man in the middle is someone putting up almost like a skimmer, possibly skimming off NFC information somewhere inside there. But I'm not saying there's not a lot of attacks like that. There probably are some. In the sense of enterprise security, though, something to consider, and this goes back to your mobile device strategy. So RFID tags, things like this, can be susceptible to attacks, but let's move on from that. Fake tags are the one thing. If you have some sort of security in place for user RFID tags, either to allow access, those tags can be recorded and spoofed. Key fobs for entry, how they set up. So we'll get into the physical aspect now. So really it comes down to your Wi-Fi, your WLAN. There have been histories, there have been recent vulnerabilities found, like the zero key insertion attack for the latest Wi-Fi standard. Again, as with any current attack, understand all the details. Don't go off the news and oh my God, all Wi-Fi is hackable now. Well, look at the attack vector, what it takes for the attack to happen. And then go back and look at your actual setup and see if there's any risks there, and if so, how can you mitigate it? But as this goes along with this chapter here, really goes into more of a review. Understand some of the attack again, evil twins, rogue access points. That's probably the one. And this will be the one that really comes from internal. So again, we have our office here set up. We have our data center. And then we have maybe a smaller ring around the data center management, maybe a DevOps ring, pretty tightly, still tightly held. Then we have a regular office. Let's call this DevOps. And then regular office, right? Management, front desk, things like that. And of course, you would have your DMZ. And this, of course, goes out to the internet. But when you look at it again, is someone in here maybe doesn't like the idea of using the Wi-Fi, and they set their own rogue access point. So a lot of times the rogue access point is not an external attacker, it's someone setting up an internal access. Let's make a little Wi-Fi router here. They set up in their office because they want to do some stuff within this local office area. And it's a small footprint, but it does leak externally. It physically gets outside into the parking lot area. Someone out here could pick that up and then find out this is actually insecurely connected to an internal desktop. This becomes an attack, a great internal attack vector, and someone gets their foothold in that direction, and then they can work their way in. So rogue access points, evil twins definitely can happen, but mostly this is going to occur from, again, not malicious in nature, just someone not following the rules. So doing an actual Wi-Fi audit is very important, and to find those access points that are running that are not authorized. Someone can take down your Wi-Fi with denial of service and so on. You can drop packets. There can be some disruption, so keep that in mind. I'm not going to go over that. We talked about this already. Intercepting Wi-Fi signals, definitely one. You want to have secure Wi-Fi in place. So understanding your Wi-Fi infrastructure is very important. Replay attacks or hijacking, there are ways around that, but you want to make sure you set up ways for this. Spoofing, jamming, again, that's for denial of service. And this goes back into understanding what you're running. So if you're running old WEP-based security, so again, maybe you might come on as a brand new cybersecurity engineer, InfoSec officer, whatever you want to call your title. Your job is internal security. It might be for network security, and part of your audit should be not just there's no rogue access points, but also our actual access points internally, are they running the latest and greatest encryption? So, and someone maybe had left behind an older access point that's still official, but it's running WEP. So that should be seen in an audit and definitely taken care of, as it could be broken. It becomes a weak link in the armor. Again, there's some methods here how to connect. I'm going to go over those. Media access controls. You could do MAC address filtering. This is not really good security. It's pretty weak security. It's more of a layered security. Maybe I have an internal access point. Maybe for the data center, there is an access point that I have only arranged within the data center, and maybe leaks out into the DevOps area, right? I should not erase my stuff. So maybe you need that. Maybe you need to have Wi-Fi within a data center. You could employ a few things. One, of course, is do not broadcast out the SSID. So no broadcasting SSID, and then also have MAC address filtering. Maybe you have specific tablets or laptops that are allowed within a data center that are maybe not can't even physically leave it. Maybe they checked out from the entry room or checked out just at the various security entry posts there. And those are official. They have their MAC addresses are recorded as only the things can be on this network. So it must be really high and secure. On top of that, I would also add in authentication, maybe using single sign-on or using some sort of authentication for internal. So not just a random password or a generic password. There's no chalkboard outside the data center saying today's password is, good coffee. So tightly secured access of this if it is needed. And then again, this access point maybe only has the network itself can only access is subnetted for the data center. So it is that bleed over you got to think about too. So device access, because the devices are going to be movable, they're not plugged in, and the bleed over that network. So again, MAC address filtering is not the best. It is a layered security measure. If someone's attacking, it could see the MAC addresses right over the, just capture the network traffic and then spoof their network address, MAC address. So SSID again, you can broadcast that, now broadcast that. And you want to limit exposure, which is possible. WPA, there's a personal and an enterprise level. Know about how it works and how the connections work, and the chapter goes into this and how the temporal key integrity protocol works and so on, methods integrity checking. Again, Wi-Fi is built on the fact that someone's going to drop and come back on, and it's going to be able to handle that. And that's where that zero key insertion attack happened during the 5-way handshake. So you can always look into that. But understanding how it works is going to help you understand not just its architecture, where is it spread out to, where's our signal going out to, how is it secure, is it doing the authentication over, again, maybe a temporary authentication that's set from someone internal that's been authenticated with their internal credentials and so on, but also just how does the connections work. So when we do see that article, it comes up and says, hey, there's a brand new WPA attack that happens during the 5-way handshake. You can sort of figure out how it fits within the your sort of realm and how the risk is. So pre-shared keys, I'm going to go to this. WPA vulnerabilities. Again, WPA 2 is what we currently at the time of this recording to, and I think 3 is on the board. You want to have latest and greatest. Again, this is not anything that's any surprise if you come off our chapters about encryption. This is in the same line of that. When you evaluate all your encryptions, use in different parts of your infrastructure, database encryptions, TLS encryptions on servers, also what kind of encryptions are we using? We're using the latest protections on our Wi-Fi. So WPA2, just understand that there are ways you can control this. A lot of times in this outer office here, there will be Wi-Fi access points. And this could be also, let's say, the college. We're here at the college, and the classrooms and the hallways have these access points. And they're there so when someone walks in from the entryway and goes into a classroom here, and they go down to a classroom here, they always have always-on connection. And you don't want someone to have to sign in. You don't want this device to have names and passwords. And then, of course, if someone goes from here, they got to sign in again. You don't want that. So it's inconvenient for the user. Having those names and passwords out here is definitely bad, or any kind of information out here is bad. So usually enterprise setup, there is a central server that this all goes into, and it probably be somewhere here in the DevOps area, let's say. These all report in, and their database of authentication credentials are held internal. So these basically are just smarter antennas that are out here that are hardwired connected to a central source. So enterprise is a little different. At home, when you come home, you have Wi-Fi. You already have a passcode. Either you made one or it came with your device. You put it into your device once, you walk around your house, you're good. But when it comes to a larger scale enterprise, you got to handle this type of scaling, and this is a lot more scalable of a way to do it. So here you can see the handshaking authentication. We're not going to go ahead and go over that. It's 8, but understand the IEEE is the process 802.1x, 802.11 typically is heard of. Authentication protocols, how authentication can happen. Again, rogue access points, peripheral protection, things like that, and your access point configuration settings. That's where that comes in right there. Our access points, how they handled. So anyways, a resource you can use besides the chapter, of course. Let's look at the chapter itself. It's chapter 8. So the chapter's going to cover some stuff I didn't talk about. Always look to the latest textbook to get more information. And I think I covered most of the big stuff, but I want to leave this with you. There's resources out there. If you're given in charge, you're put in charge of auditing a enterprise network. There are things out there you can use, existing things you can look at. For example, SANS. And SANS has great resources, white papers and so on. They actually have checklists. So I just Google SANS checklists, and you have enterprise wireless checklist here. So you have to use this, verbatim, but you can take this and pick it apart and make a little quick spreadsheet, and you have both here a question list. Has the overall architecture, enterprise one, has the deployments, blah, blah, blah. You can go through this and answer yes or no to these questions. And what you don't know, you can go find out. So it's configuration management in place. If not, that comes a red flag. So again, you don't have to come to this with a blank page. You have these great resources like SANS to help you, audit your enterprise or your larger sort of enterprise level network. So default passwords have been changed. It's always a big one. Don't always have default passwords that come with the devices. Configurations. They're also backed up too if it's not on here. You don't want your Wi-Fi to go down and then you have to re-image your access points and find out you got to reset them up again. So SSID construction and so on. So this is a great asset here. Again, I would Google SANS checklists. SANS checklist, and there's actually a bunch here. Check it out. There's stuff here for, step-by-step guides. This one is the enterprise wireless one. So fantastic resource. And there's probably other ones out there too. NIST probably has some stuff. And if you're dealing with things like government, PCI, there might be some. There's more out there to help you along the way with dealing with wire security. So that wraps up chapter 8, and for this case topic, week 9 on wireless network security. Thank you.